We can start now.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sushobita Singh. On the behalf of Clue for Evidence, I welcome you all. Thank you for joining for today's DHI-55 Expert Talk webinar series organized by Clue for Evidence Foundation. And today's topic is forensic nanotechnology, and the speaker is Dr. Shivani R. Pandya ma'am, HOD of the Department of Forensic Science at Pardon Institute of Applied Sciences, Purdue University, and served as an assistant professor. She had done a bachelor's in microbiology, master's in forensic medicine, and PhD in nanomedicine from the School of Nanosciences, Central University of Gujarat. She has 12 publications in international science and research journals, and she has received the Young Scientist International Scientist Award at the 4th International Young Scientist Conference 2018. She had got the Best Woman Faculty Award 2020 at the second virtual international conference on the forensic science and criminal investigation too. She serves as the editorial member of the journals Nanomedicine and Technology and Science, World Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences, and Journal of Medical Legal Reporters, and peer reviewer at many international journals too. And at last, if you have any queries, any questions related to the presentation, please type them in the question box. We will bring them up during the presentations, and then there will be time after the end also to ask the questions. So now we will turn the time over to Dr. Shivani Pandya ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much for introduction. So today we are gathering here to know a bit about a new branch that is forensic nanotechnology. As lots of research and new advancement is going on in this field. It is a bit fascinating as this word nanotechnology is, bit uh, uh, very interesting, I can say, or else we can say when nano arrives, we are thinking that it's that small that we could not able to see by our naked eye. Then how can we use it? So during this session, I'll try my best to make you know about basics till the how we can apply this technology in our area of forensic science. So before going to that, uh, I know everybody here might know about the forensic science, but yes, the thing is, as forensic word itself describes that it's a multidisciplinary applied science field which connects all branches of science and social sciences, including law. So this field basically gives an application of scientific knowledge to solve the crimes in the criminal justice system. And this branch basically runs by Locard's principle that every contact leave traces. So as we are all aware about forensic science, let's move towards nanoscience. And what is it? So nanoscale science basically deals with the size of 10 raised to power minus 9 meter, or I can say 1 nanometer. So here the objects which we are studying are in that small scale. And basically this word, nanoscience and nanotechnology, describes about the study of nanomaterials and their all possible applications in various fields of science by preparing its devices or preparing their assemblies by controlling their shape, size for various applications. So before understanding, what nano it means, let's see how big nanometer is. So I hope you understood how small a nano is. That means we could not able to see that object or material just by naked eye, even not by using compound microscope. People who are dealing with microbes or under the means microbiology background, they are usually using compound microscopes and various types of microscopes to see a cellular structure, to see the cells that, which are present in our body, and they're trying to magnify that object up to the few axes like 100x to 20x. But here, as we are dealing with the material which is of very small size, we are basically using sophisticated instrumentations like electron microscopes or atomic force microscopes, by which we can able to go through the atomic arrangement. Here, nano scale materials basically are very much of useful because of their various applications. So that we will learn during this session. It is been described as in that video that we have seen just now before, that we could not able to see after few micrometers. Like we can able to see up to the hair hair's thickness, but not beyond that. So, as everything that now we are aware about in that field, we can means we can apply few applications to that particular area, because we know our body is arranged with the cellular structure, and in that cells there are various small size pores. So if for an example I'm talking about the application of nanotechnology in biomedical applications, then most of the biomedical applications are dealing with the drug delivery systems and targeted drug transport systems, because nowadays, as we all are aware about that diseases in this era, it's coming like anything, and most of the people are suffering with various diseases. But the main problem was, because we are taking high dosage, we are also suffering with side effects, including with that particular disease. So that that affects the health, that affects the uh, age factor, everything. And that is why here the role of nanotechnology came into the picture. Since sorry, since from 1990, it has been like a wide application has been arrived into the market, and it was first described by Richard Feynman, that how we can use or how this molecular arrangement changes the world scenario. So that was the first time in 1959, in one of the lecture of his, Richard Feynman has described there is a plenty of room at the bottom, and that makes everything changed. Everything is changed on the basis of applications and technology. Earlier, it was just been used for the applications in electronic devices, but then after started from 2000, it is like used in consumer products and medicines and lots of other areas. So our future is like we are just going to make such type of devices which are small, which are thin, which are targeted. So if you have seen the changes since from the childhood to now, you can say that the computers or laptops that has been arrived like right now, they are light in weight, small in size, and having high configurations. Speed is higher than earlier. Even the products that is arrived into the market, they are also using nanomaterials inside it, so that it enhances its effect. So that is how this this whole area of nanotechnology right now broadening of its tentacles into the various fields of science. Before going to the other part, let's bit understand about how it works, why it is so fascinating, how it is so important to work in that particular field, and how it can change our scientific investigation. So the key difference in nanomaterials are they are increase their surface to volume ratio. Now, what is surface to volume ratio? So for an example, let's think that we have a cube with us, which is having six surfaces, but that six surfaces are fixed for the cube. And now I don't want to change its volume. I just want to change I just want to change its number of surfaces. Then what we can do is we can minimize it. We can cut it down. So if I cut a single cube into two, I'll get 12 surfaces with me. Likewise, the numbers of time, if I am decreasing or if I'm cutting the size of that particular cube, I'm enhancing the surfaces for the reactions, for the interactions, right? That is how it can say it's a increased relative surface area, or I can say relative surface to volume ratio that is increasing in nanomaterials. Second thing, quantum effect. Now what is quantum effect? Whenever we are decreasing the size or we are cutting down the material, what we are doing is we are breaking the bonds, we are concentrating the energies, and that is how it becomes restricted through their electrons. That is a quantum effect. So that is how, because they are having a high energy in a very small sized material, the both purposes are now solved. It is so sensitive, and second, it is having a large surface area so that we can use we can infinite amount of structure. So how we can classify such materials on the basis of their or shape, or on the basis of their quantum confinement. As we have already discussed about how surface to volume ratio is increasing, and how we can able to manipulate our material at the nano size. So on the basis of that, if we are classifying our material, uh, like for an example, as I have mentioned, a cubic structure, if I'm cutting it down, I'm increasing its surfaces into the double of the numbers every time. So actually what it is like I'm confining the growth of electrons. As you can see here, every material which you can see, it is having 3D structure, right? X, Y, and Z axis. This axis, for an example, it is having electrons that they are growing in all these three dimensions. If I'm restricting one of the dimension, then what happens? The growth of that particular area will be stopped. So another two dimensions will grow accordingly. So that is how, on the basis of electron restriction and confinement, these particles are well divided in four categories. If all these three dimensions, X, Y, and Z, been restricted on the basis of their electron confinement, then it will be of zero dimension. If a single dimension and two dimensions are free, then it will be a one dimensional material like this. If two dimensions are free and one is restricted, then it will be a two dimensional material. And if no dimensions that get restricted, but the size is overall in the nanometer, then it will be a 3D type of material. We'll see what are the examples. Here, if I'm talking about a zero dimensional material, and few of you are aware about or have heard about this word of quantum dots or carbon dots. These materials are considered or are categorized under the zero dimensional material, as this material is having a restriction of all these three dimensions. Nanotubes, nanowires, nanofibers, like for example, carbon nanotube, are categorized under the 1D type of material. If you have heard about titanium dioxide sheets, zinc oxide sheets, these are the materials which has basically been used as a photocatalytic reagent. They comes under the 2D type of materials. And if you have heard dendrimers or supramolecular materials, they are having one of the side at nanometer, but overall they have a structure or a size of a few microns, but still because of their sensitivity, because of their surface to volume ratio, they comes under the three-dimension materials. So these are few effects: size effect, quantum effect, and electron effects that changes a property of nanomaterials with respect to bulk material. Now, bulk material, that means whatever you are right now seeing from your eyes are divided into the bulk material, which are having a size of few microns. So this effects means I'm minimizing the size, I'm quantifying my material by restricting the electrons movement. That is how this effect changes the property of materials. So if I'm talking about size effect, so two effects we can see: one that is intrinsic size effect, and second one that is an external size effect. So if intrinsic size effects are there, then it's reflecting the changing particles properties. For an example, its lattice parameter, its melting temperature, its hardness, band gap, its luminescence, etc. If we are talking about external size effect, that means external, we are dividing or we are cutting down the edges of our nanomaterial. That means it reflects the building of that material, like particles or their green boundaries or their domains. So it ultimately affects its physical phenomena, like electron moments, how their coherent length will affect, and how their how much energy they'll reflect likewise. So this is like, if we are changing the size, we are changing its internal properties. It might possible that we are enhancing or we are transferring the type of properties it is inheriting while it is in bulk. If quantum effect and electron effect, they are basically, I can say, correlated to each other. Quantum effect, that well describes by electron effect, that here, as I have already mentioned, that we are actually restricting the moment of electrons around their growth. So that is how we are looking for the degree of freedoms that particular materials carrying. So we can say the restriction of that electron's degree of freedom is at the three-dimensional, that as I have mentioned, 0D, and accordingly 1D, 2D, and 3D types of material we can synthesize. Electron effect is well described by this theory in quantum mechanics, that is particle in the box. If you are very much interested in that, you can go through the Schrodinger's energy changes equation and particle in the box theory. It describes well about how we can restrict the electron movement by by changing its energy. So we are not going deep into that particular part. So that is how, as we have now aware about that, because of the changing in the size of nano, means changing in the size of material object, when it becomes a nano, it's most of the properties like physical property or chemical property and biological properties, okay, means including it, they all changes. So it enhances this property actually. As for an example, if I'm uh, talking about carbon materials and carbon nanotubes with comparison, then we can say the strength of carbon nanotube is much more higher than the strength of the bulk material. So that is how it changes its physical, mechanical, chemical, all types of properties. So which properties are those? Like a physical, that means we are changing the size, crystalline structure, their melting point, mechanical strength. If it is optical property, then we are changing their surface plasmons, quantum confinement effect, their electrical properties and magnetic properties. So let me describe these properties in a very brief manner. That if it is physical properties, usually what we are doing is, being a nanoscientist, that we are minimizing the size of nanomaterial up to the few range of our desire, which is applicable for the various applications. So depending on that particular size, we are cutting down the grain boundaries. What they do, they are generating a high amount of defects onto the surface. Now, what is that defect? The defects are unsaturated chemical bonds that are earlier present in the bounded state. So, numbers of unsaturated bonds which are at the surface now behave as a single functional unit to catch a new molecule to get interacted with it to become a safe, stable material. So that is how those bonds which are unsaturated are also known as dangling bonds. Those bonds are enhancing its chemical property as well as its strengthening property, a mechanical or a melting on crystalline properties. So that is how this physical properties changes. Now, if it is about optical property and a particularly surface plasmons or surface plasmon resonance, SPR, it's one of the properties of uh, gold nanoparticles and silver nanoparticles and few quantum dots. As what happens over here at the uh, as when we are minimizing, we are reducing the size of that particular metal, it reflects a fourth state of that particular material. As we are all aware about the state of material, solid, liquid, gases, and the fourth one that is plasma state. So that state that generates electron density around the core of material, and it is very much useful while we are using the such type of material for the sensing properties. So that is how surface plasmon is also affects while it becomes a nano. Also, electrical property and magnetic properties are there. As magnetic properties that base indicates about if we have seen a magnets around it, they are the permanent magnets. But we are not using such magnets for the various applications. But nowadays, in particularly biomedical fields, people are using magnetic materials for various applications, like for MRI contrast agents to targeted drug delivery. Sorry. So, how it will be useful? Like if we are minimizing the size of such type of nanomaterials, which are enhancing their magnetic properties, so that we can able to manipulate those materials inside our body by using external magnetic source. So that is how this a scenario means this changing in properties are useful in various domains of the science and technology. These are the possible approaches by which nanomaterials can be synthesized. One that is top down and another one that is bottom up. If it is top down, that means itself it's indicating that I'm cutting down the material into the smaller type, smaller size. So it is like I'm transforming energy by cutting that particular bulk material into the powder form to the nano size form. If it is bottom up, then we are gathering the ions, radicals, and electrons up to the few size nanometer. So that is how it's like nucleation of that particular ions up to the clusterized form. So that is how bottom up strategy works. It means you are gathering ions and you are preparing your own structure. Like I want to prepare a hexagonal type of structure. I'll make it such type of skeletal that the growth of that particular material will show you a hexagonal shape with few dimensions or few nanometer range. That is how bottom up strategy works. Although it is like all depends on the precursors we are using and copolymers or polymers we are using or reducing agent and oxidation agents we are using for the synthesis. Sorry. Top down approaches, basically you can see it has been used for preparing most of the electronic devices, like it is using lithographic techniques, machining, and ball milling technique. These three techniques are used under the top down approach, in which you are designing your bulk material by cutting it into the nanoscale, or you are designing that nano uh, I can say nano device onto the particular bulk material. It is like if you have seen integrated circuit development, uh, they have using few technology like STM, that is scanning tunneling microscope, and atomic force microscopes are types of instruments for designing their nanoscale devices onto the matrix. That is how top-down approach works. And if it is bottom-up, then uh, they are basically using a cluster of molecules or different atoms, and they are preparing cluster up to the few size range, and then they are applicating that material for various applications. Now, what is the benefit of having top down and benefits of having bottom up? Both of the techniques are very useful for the preparation of nanomaterials, but the both techniques are having few limitations in that. So if I'm talking about top down method, then the limitation is, as we are cutting down the edges of material, the size is irregular. So it is not useful for various sophisticated applications, because those applications requires a homogeneous size and shape. So in such conditions, when we are using a top-down approach, particularly for an example, ball milling method, in which if you have seen milling, they are using metal balls of different size, and then they are rotating with up to few rpms and preparing a material up to the nanoscale. But the thing is, we are having a size distribution into that particular powder, like from 100 nanometer to 1 nanometer range. So that is a very heterogeneous system that could not be able to applicable to the various sophisticated applications. And then this bottom up approach came into the picture, that we can able to manipulate our material according to our desire, according to our requirement, and we can also manipulate its shape, its size, everything depending on to the application. So that is how both technologies are, both approaches are of very much use, and they are useful for various areas. So, as I have mentioned for top down, that machining and lithography and ball milling methods are useful for the preparation of such type of material. In bottom up techniques, there are multiple methods people are using, and researchers are giving us new methods every day. So there are numbers of paper in which you can found broad area, broad methods, or very different methods in each paper. But the thing is, there are basically three methods that is being used, and under which people are doing modifications. That is solution phase fabrication, vapor phase fabrication, and spray pyrolysis. So here, if it is solution phase fabrication, we are using solutions of material as a precursor, and then after we are preparing our nanomaterial. If it is a vapor phase, we are using some solid material, then we are preparing up its vapor, or we are making it into the plasma state, and then we are preparing our nanomaterial. And if it is a spray pyrolysis, then we'll use a material, uh, source material in the gaseous state, and the we'll sputter it onto the targeted material that will make it in the nano. So that is how these three methods being used for the preparation of various nanomaterials. And these are few techniques by which we can able to characterize or synthesize nanomaterial. Uh, Here I have written a few techniques, but there are numbers of techniques by which we can able to characterize our material. As characterization of material, that depends on under which application I want to characterize my material. Whether I want to check its optical property, whether I want to check its morphological property, or I want to check its another property like charge, or its interaction, or its surface area, or its crystalline nature, whatever we want to check, we can use various sophisticated methods. As I have already mentioned earlier, that because nanomaterials are at the nano range, it is not easy to characterize material by using simple, simple instrumentation. For that, we required a few hi-fi technologies like scanning electron microscope and transmitting electron microscope, atomic force microscope. Other than that, we are also can able to characterize our materials for their interplanar spaces between the atoms, and what is the oxidation state of our material, everything. So these are the techniques you can see, optical, morphological, and other important techniques. So up to now we have studied about what is nanotechnology, what are nanomaterials, and how we can able to uh, able to synthesize it, or what are the properties that affects nanomaterial to become a very smart material. So because of this, properties, their size property and their electron properties, such materials are behaving very sensitive. They are very active and they are very smart. So as we all bit aware about the things which is going around us, that lots of technology that is coming into the market, coming into the scientific area, and people are using it for the various purposes. So why it is a need of using nanotechnology in that particular area? So for that we can understood this few applications that uh, I have found through the research papers. As forensic science is also a applied science and nanotechnology is also a applied science, there are few articles that I've been referring before this discussion, and in that I have found that there are lots of papers right now coming around the globe, from the globe, that people are using nanotechnology for the preventive forensics as well as for the investigating forensics. So as we are uh, known to that when we are investigating the crime scene, usually what we have found is a trace evidence. So trace evidence, that means it is in very micro amount, it is in very small amount that we could not able to go for the destructive methods. And that is why it might possible that we are not able to get more idea about that particular sample. And that is why most of the times few cases, or most of the cases, that is still remain unsolved. So in that particular area, as this material smart, sensitive, and reactive, we can use a very small amount of our evidence for the identification of that particular compound with a very high proficiency, very high efficiency. So these are few articles. You can also go through this Google search, that there are lots of right now articles are talking about how we can utilize the knowledge of nanotechnology into the forensic science. So these are the, I can say, a connectivity between forensic science and nanotechnology. As nanotechnology will give you a hand on the synthesis, on preparing of nanosensors. You can also prepare some electronic devices like MEMS and NAMS. Also, you can prepare nanorobots, or you can use this technique, nanolithography, for designing sensors, and also a nanotechnology. Likewise, forensic science is also dealing with few areas of uh, um, science, like fingerprint analysis, toxicology, explosive identification, drug identification, hair and fiber analysis, and DNA fingerprinting. So, how it will help us by combining both of this field together? Nanotechnology that enhances its sensitivity, accuracy, rapidity, and selectivity, and also reducing cost effectiveness, also reduces error and detection time. That is what we require, because of high cost, because of high manual and instrumental error, and because of a very long period of time, most of the samples get degraded. And that is how we could not able to get a proper idea about the compound which is present into the sample. So these are few applications of nanotech, like in the fingerprint. If we are talking about it, then we can able to enhance. There are, before that, there are multiple enhancement agents into the market, multiple. Even we are using talcum powders and spices which are present in kitchen. Even with the soil, one of the paper I have just gone through was they have enhanced this fingerprint by using soil. So there are like very cost effective and different techniques which is available. But the thing is, what is a basic problem while we are dealing with fingerprint is, it is not easy to get a proper print onto the crime scene, as it is always have a chance print over there. it might possible that we don't have a proper pattern over there, or it might possible that distribution of crime scene, that is very common, that people are touching here and there, even uh, few times, like in Talwar case also, a investigating officer has ruined crime scene by touching here and there. So what we can do by using nanotechnology in that particular problem, that we can prepare such type of materials that can differentiate the overlapping of fingerprint, that is identification of age of fingerprint. So by using such materials or nanomaterials, we can able to get idea which print was patent first and which one was overlap. So that is how this area of technology that works in forensic science. uh, Here is an example that is giving us a lipophilic magnetic nanoparticles that enhances fingerprint. Here we can make it as a powder, we can make it as a solution or a spray, and also we can use it as chemical reagent that enhance afterwards. So that is how you can see here that how this material attached to the particular substances which are present into the fingerprint and enhances its print. Now another factor which is important over here in fingerprint enhancement is when we are getting a very very haphazard or very random print onto the crime scene. Most of the time it happens that we are not able to see through the pattern which are present over there. We are learning fingerprint identification, pattern identification, core identification, but that is only possible if we have a full print of the person, right? But if it is a crime scene, then it is not a full print. It is just a fraction of print that is present over there. And for that, we are also going for the microscopic analysis of that print, that is poroscopy and angioscopy study. So here you can see the material that is being used is in the nano range, and pores that are present, they are in few micro range. It's like zero point 0.1 micrometer or up to the 10 micrometer, up in that range. So what happens, because of the smaller size of nanomaterial, it attaches to the very specific side of the compound, and that enables that particular fingerprint to look at the microscopic level in very HD view, a high resolution view. So that is how we can use nanomaterial for the fingerprint identification, and it enhances its clarity. It enhances its visual differences, like which one is aged, which one is not aged. And these are the few examples of nanomaterials like silver nanoparticle, gold nanoparticles of few range, and their merits, how we can utilize it into the fingerprint. So uh, here you can see that we can also able to get idea, like last one here, a gold nanoparticle of 50 nanometers that enables rapid and simple visualization of latent fingerprint and can also able to detect spoken into it. So we are solving, it is solving our two purpose, that identification of drug as well as enables enhancement of fingerprint. So that is how we can use these nanomaterials in both of the way, as an enhancement agent as well as a sensing agent. Few more are just a second. It is like detection of drug, explosive material, sorry, detection of explosive material. And here you can see they have this paper of Pandya and Shukla. They have written a very good article, and they have mentioned that how we can able to use curcumin nanoparticle, that is an organic nanoparticle, for the detection of heavy explosive like TNT. Likewise, you can see we can also able to extract DNA by using magnetic nanomaterials as well as carbon nanotubes. Now, why it is important that when we are going for the DNA extraction methods, usually what happens, we are using few methods which is very hazardous to human health. Like we are using phenol as which is carcinogenic to the human, and we are also not able to extract DNA up to the few quantity. So the DNA which is present inside the cell, that is of nanogram amount maybe, But this enables, because of the smaller size and high sensitivity, that this enables the extraction of DNA, even if it is in the nanogram amount. This is how we can able to prepare a trackers. So these are the idea which is been given by a scientist by preparing oxide nanoparticles that has been attached to the fluorescent probe, and that been injected to the person who are in prisoners, means who are prisoners. If they escape from that particular area, we can caught it for them by using the sensors, by checking where they are. So that is how we can also use it for the preventive purpose. We can also use it for the identification of drug, especially in drug facilitated crimes. So usually DFC, that terms as day trap, and that includes the drugs which are used for sexual assault cases, robbery, money extortion, and so on. So here criminal uses psychotropic substances to avoid hesitations from the victim. And this psychotropic substances we can able to identify by using uh, chemical sensors, nanosensors. Here is an example. One of the paper is mentioned about that gold nanoparticles can be a good chemical sensor for the identification by giving us a color change, and that you can check by using just a mobile device. That is like RGB, red, blue, green color ratios that will give you idea about the presence and the absence of psychotropic substances in that particular sample. So these are the applications, and there are many more applications of nanomaterials into our area of forensic science. Not only this, you can visualize anything, and you can put up your nanomaterial to the any area of your interest. There are few more applications. Let me just talk about that, like identification or restoration of documents, and preservation of uh, historically important documents. Other than that, in the area of I can say toxicology and medicine, people are using nanomaterials for various applications. So likewise, you can also able to derive a new application, and I think it is just a initiation. There is a long way to go in this particular field, and it is showing that it's the exponential growth of use of nanotechnology into the forensic science. So I hope this whole talk is useful for the generation of new technology. And thank you very much for sparing the time to listen to me. And now uh, I can say, if you have any question, you can ask me.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a very informative webinar. Now, we have some questions in the chat box. So, can we detect two overlap fingerprints by nanotechnology?
Yes, definitely. We can able to detect two overlapped fingerprints. In 2011, I went to one conference. It was a first international conference organized by GFSU, Forensic Nanotechnology. In that, I have chance to meet one research scholar, Sebastian, and he has a very good research on that, overlapping of fingerprint by using identification of overlapping of fingerprint by using quantum dots. So it was like it was started since from that year, and I think there are breakthrough research which are already going on around us.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, Vartika Khare says, ma'am, I have read a paper on using nanoparticles along with CAB, congenine antibody binding to detect smokers. How does the mechanism work?
For that, I also need to go that particular paper here, because usually what happens, nicotine basically when consumes, it attaches with the biological molecules which are present in our body. And if it is chronic, if the person is a chain smoker or a long term smoker, then it might possible that you can get the compound or a metabolic form of nicotine into the nails and hairs. So by using that particular protein, biotin, we might able to detect the attachment of metabolite of nicotine from the body. So that is what I understood by your question. But yes, we can go through the paper and we can get idea about in depth.
Ma'am, next question. Ma'am, Rahul wants to know whether the surface of sphere is more than the cube surface, and why can't we use the sphere-shaped nanoparticles?
Yes, definitely. The surface of sphere is, higher than the cube surface, as it doesn't have any edge. It is a spherical surface. So if you are aware about, like, around us we are having everything in spherical shape. Usually, like, earth is having slightly spherical in shape. The drop that has been dropped from the bottle, that is also becomes spherical in shape. That means if it is a spherical shape, it is having a highest energy inside it. And the surface surface area of that particular material, that is also high. Now we are using spherical nanoparticles. Basically, nanomaterials been divided in, as we have already mentioned, in different classifications: sphere, or nanoparticles, nano ribbons, or nanofibers, everything, nano thin films. So depending on our application, for an example, if I want to go for the sensing application, I required a rod shaped material than the spherical shaped material. Because of its shape, it also changes the interaction procedure. So that is why we are not using spherical nanoparticles for every application. But depending on our application, we are choosing the shape of nanomaterial.
Thank you, ma'am. So, next question: to detect a drug like morphine, how nanomaterials are working?
Uh, we can use any nanomaterial for that. Like, for an example, transition metal based nanomaterial, or I can say rare earth based nanomaterials for detection procedure. The thing is, we must need to check which form of morphine is present over there. We know there is a metabolism process going on. When we are going for the detection of morphine, definitely we are not going to get morphine as in the same form. So we'll get the metabolite of that particular compound. Now I need to prepare such type of material or a nanomaterial which is coated with a targeted material which only detects the metabolites of morphine. That is how we can design our nanomaterial for particular detection.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants, if you have any more questions, please type it in the chat box. Okay, ma'am. I think there are no more questions. So I would like to provide the vote of thanks. Honorable Chairman, our chief guests, and dear participants, on behalf of Clue for Evidence Foundation NGO and the organizing committee, I feel immense pleasure to take this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks to our eminent speaker, Dr. Shivani R. Pandya, ma'am, HOD, Department of Forensic Science, Parul Institute of Applied Science, Vadodara, Gujarat, who spared the time from her busy schedule to provide us the knowledge on the topic forensic nanotechnology. Ma'am, please accept the certificate of appreciation. Ma'am, in the webinar, you rightly talked about how small nano is and various types of instrumentation for observing the nanoparticles. Ma'am, you also explained us about how the future of nanotechnology can be, and you also told us about the difference between nanomaterials and bulk materials on basis of surface to volume ratio. Then also classification of materials based on the number of dimensions which are not confined to the nanoscale range. As to that is divided into four categories: 0D, 1D, 2D, and 3D. Also, you gave very nice examples for them like carbon nanotube. So next one is how the effects can change, size effects can change in the particle properties, and the quantum effects, which can help in restriction on electron degree of freedom. Then the electron effect in the particle in the box, that was a very nice example, ma'am. And the next one, you explained us about various properties of nanomaterials like physical, optical, electrical, and magnetic properties. So you also told us about the possible approaches to make nanomaterials using top-down strategy and bottom-up strategy. You also told us about the sophisticated methods that can be used in top-down approach as well as bottom-up approach. The characterization techniques of nanoparticles by optical characterization, morphological characterization, and other important characterization techniques. How nanotechnology is being used as in preventive forensics and many other applied sciences field, and how nanotechnology is contributing in the future of digital technology, and various application of nanotechnology where it is used in fingerprints enhancement, explosive residue detection, DNA analysis, nano trackers, screening and identification of drug facilitated crime by nanosensors, restoration of documents, and many more. Ma'am, you told us about how nanotechnology can result in exponential growth in field of forensic science. So yeah, this was a very informative webinar and session. I thank you so much for that. I would also like to take this opportunity to specially express my regards and gratitude to Mr. Paninder sir, Chairman and Managing Trustee of Clue for Evidence Foundation NGO, for always encouraging us, providing opportunities to organize such events, and for support and confidence in us. My deep sense of appreciation and thanks to all the volunteers and participants for making this a successful event. Once again, I thank you all for being with us this afternoon, and please have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you, ma'am. Dear participants, thank you, ma'am. Please fill the feedback form from the link given in the chat box for the certificate of participation. Also, please follow all the social media handles of For Evidence Foundation so that you will be updated on such future events. Thank you.
Okay, then Neha, thank you so much, and I should leave now. Thank you again.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Dear participants, please fill the feedback form as the link will become inactive after the session ends.
कहीं एवीएस तो नहीं दिख